On to our top focus in this edition. He is a designated terrorist, the mastermind of the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks. And it seems that Hafiz Saeed is now eyeing a possible alliance with Khalistani hardliners in Pakistan. That's right, the Milli Muslim League, which is a political offshoot of his terror outfit Lashkar-e-Toiba, held a convention at the Nanka Sahib Gurdwara in Lahore in Pakistan. The move is being seen as an attempt by the terror outfit's political front to form an anti-India front. The convention was organized by Hafiz Saeed with help from the Secretary General of Pakistan Sikh Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee, Gopal Singh Chawla, who is known for his demands of a separate Khalistan state in India. Now, these recent developments are an indication that Pakistan is once again trying to rekindle the Khalistani movement in order to build pressure on India. It's an old template. They have done it before and failed. Take a look at how separatists of all hues in India have found support across the border.
Indian partition was one of the bloodiest episodes in the history of the subcontinent. The region that was divided along religions witnessed killings, mass exodus and violence at a scale that wasn't seen before. While two nations came into existence owing to a partition largely along the lines of belief, the demand for another one went unheard. When the then Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru formed the State Reorganization Panel, many in Punjab felt that their sentiments were not heeded too. And that gave the rise to a home rule movement that demanded a separate nation-state called Khalistan. Pakistan jumped to the opportunity of aiding the separatist movement. The protagonists of the movement started visiting Islamabad and meeting politicians. Starting late 1960s, the Yahya Khan government in Pakistan supported the demand of a secession of the Khalistanis from India, a ploy that allegedly involved other international players too, like support from the then American President Richard Nixon. Subsequent dispensations too continued their support for the movement. India alleged that General Zia-ul Haq extended unusual hospitality to the Khalistani militants in late 70s. Support poured in not just from political echelons of Islamabad, but also from Rawalpindi. The former ISI chief Hamid Gul claimed in an interview to a Pakistani channel that the Khalistani militants purchased arms and ammunitions from Pakistan. With support from Pakistan, the militant struggle gained a new dimension, one that the Indian government equated with terrorism, to handle which the Operation Blue Star was carried out in 1984. The subsequent fallout led to the movement being relegated to the fringes, but Pakistan has continued its support for the movement. And with the newborn homie between a dreaded Islamist terrorist and a pro-Khalistani sympathizer in the birthplace of first Sikh Guru, Guru Nanak Sahib, there is reason of concern for India. Bureau Report, WION.
There are several aspects that are to be discussed here. Let's broaden this up. Joining us here in the studio is G. Parthasarthi, former Indian diplomat, who is also the former High Commissioner to Pakistan. Let's also get in Ahmed Shaheen, a Pakistani journalist, joining us as well. Coming to you first, Ambassador. This is, of course, an old template, as that report also pointed out. This has been happening for quite some time, as separatists in India have also found support across the border. Help our viewers understand how problematic this is when a terrorist tries to revive a movement like the Khalistani movement.
Let me go back, because I was in Karachi.
Yes.
In the early 80s. Yes. This started around 78, 79. It was personally overseen by President Zia and his Chief of Staff, General K.M. Arif. They cultivated extremist Sikhs in the US and in UK. US, there was a fellow called Ganga Singh Dhillon. In UK, it was a person called Jagjit Singh Chauhan. And it was a set piece. It was done now, it is still done. They get these separatists from UK and USA, and when Sikh Jattas go for religious pilgrimages, they actually use these chaps to try and incite separatism amongst Sikhs going for religious pilgrimage.
Right.
When I was High Commissioner, 2 days before the Vajpayee visit, a Sikh Jatha had come and they had Khalistani flags where they were staying, all put up by the ISI. In fact, they had appointed a special man called Lieutenant General Javed Nasir, who's no more, but he was also responsible for the 1993 Mumbai attacks, to do the subversion and spread separatism. The important point is it hasn't worked because the communities in Punjab, whether they're Sikh or Hindu, are so closely united, intermarriage and so on. It hasn't worked. But if you travel around the world, which I do, in Canada, Australia, UK particularly, and to a lesser extent in the US, the Americans act much tougher with them, where ex-Commonwealth countries, the Pakistan missions do nothing except instigating the Sikh community against India. And I can give you names, dates, to be precise, if I remember correct, February, that just say.
And that's something that you witnessed.
I witnessed. I had, in fact, I had one of my officers beaten up, and I warned that we would take retaliatory action in Delhi if that was repeated, and that it would have a bearing on the Vajpayee visit. So they cooled off. I realized one thing also then, that members of the democratic government were not happy with this. This was totally a military run operation.
All right. Emir, if you've been listening in, this is, of course, a pattern that the ambassador is also talking about. Tell us a little bit more about what actually happened at the Gurdwara Nanka Sahib there in Lahore. According to reports, globally designated terrorist Hafiz Saeed, along with other accomplices, have been trying to hold conventions, have been trying to find support to recruit volunteers for the Khalistan movement.
Usually when this kind of cross-border infiltration is happening, it's happening secretly. But when it's between India and Pakistan, all norms of secrecy, and these are secret operations, but not really. These operations are quite public, and these are not, I mean, they're not result-oriented. What Pakistan alleges India is doing in Balochistan and what India says Pakistan is doing in India when it comes to Khalistan and other separatist movements. I don't think it has practical bearing. I don't think Pakistan can enable Khalistan to become independent, and neither can India enable Balochistan to become independent. I think it's more of a point scoring. It's showing the masters that we're doing our job more than actually, looking for practical ramifications of such actions. Having said that, I think it's totally despicable that, using the notion enemy of the enemy is a friend. India and Pakistan both have been, at least in their words, but I'm sure practically as well, they have been trying to make the most out of internal problems of each other's countries. In Pakistan, we allege that India is participating in terror activities, supporting the Balochistan terrorist separatists, and Pakistan is doing the same when it comes to, India is doing the same accusation when it comes to Pakistan. In Pakistan, the support is more vocal. The need for approval from the powers that be, that we are doing our part, is there. And also in India, it surprises me that very responsible people say we're going to retaliate. How do you retaliate to terrorism or cross-border infiltration? By doing the same. I think it's despicable that it should be part of any country's policy, be it India, Pakistan, or any other country, that instead of trying to focus on our problems and trying to resolve them, we are focusing on the other countries' problems and trying to. And it doesn't do any justice. I mean, I'm not pro any separatist movement, neither against it, but it doesn't do any justice to the separatist movement once you get the outside help. It destroys the separatist movement, and that's what it is doing. In Balochistan is becoming an unpopular, in the rest of the country, an unpopular movement, because there are signs of foreign infiltration happening there. And I think if the Khalistan movement would have any momentum, it has to be genuine and indigenous. It cannot be from Pakistan. And the Khalistan movement, people who are pro-Khalistan movement, should separate themselves from people like Hafiz Saeed if they want their movement to go anywhere.
All right, stay with me both, Ahmed and Ambassador Parthasarathi. I'll just come back to you both. This is also coming at a very interesting time. The Modi-Xi meeting in Wuhan, though it was informal, seems to have ironed out long-standing differences between the two Asian giants, be it a commitment to maintaining peace along the border or increasing bilateral trade. Leaders of the two nations struck all the right chords, but not everyone, of course, is elated. India and China's mutual neighbor, Pakistan, seems to be rattled. Its political and non-political machinery seems to have gone into an overdrive, trying to derail stability in India. While the meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi was underway in the Chinese metropolis of Wuhan, another meeting was taking place some 4,000 kilometers away in Pakistan. The chief of the Milli Muslim League, political offshoot of terror organization Lashkar-e-Toiba, met with a pro-Khalistani leader in Lahore. The meeting between Saifullah Khalid and Gopal Singh Chawla took place at one of the holiest sites in Sikhism, Nankah Sahib, believed to be the birthplace of Guru Nanak Sahib, Sikhism's first guru, was being used to form an anti-India front. Chawla is known for his support to the Khalistani secessionist movement in India and has also been a regular visitor to the Lashkar headquarters in Mudrike. The new alliance is anything but usual, given how Sikhs have faced persecution at the hands of Islamist fundamentalists in Pakistan and the anti-Sikh withdrawal that Lashkar top brass has often resorted to. While the Lashkar chief gets busy trying to form an anti-India front, seems to be more reason to cheer for the designated terrorist. The current Pakistani dispensation seems to be doing whatever it can to derail the probe in the 2611 terror attack case. The chief prosecutor following up the case since 2009 has been removed. Chaudhry Azhar was abruptly removed from his position. The word is that he was unwilling to toe the government's line. Miffed by Azhar, who wasn't taking its considerations regarding the case, he was told that his services were no longer required. The Pakistan government offered no explanation and brushed it off as a routine matter. The timing of the move also begs several questions. Fearing to fall out of its favor, Islamabad wants to appease China in as many ways as is possible. Take the budget, for example. The financial blueprint for the nation, which was presented before lawmakers last week, the Chinese imprints were evidently visible. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, found 7 mentions in the speech by the finance minister. He lauded it, saying, and I'm quoting, the vision of Mian Nawaz Sharif. The CPEC initiative has become a global brand of Pakistan, a spectacle clearly meant for China. Pakistan tried to ensure that ties with Beijing remain the same. The budget was also a reason of concern for India. Pakistan allocated $9.6 billion for defense expenditure, increasing their defense budget by a whopping 18% as compared to last year. It also envisioned greater independence when it comes to development of its satellite program. Islamabad allocated $40 million as the budget for its space and upper atmosphere research organization. Pakistan set aside $12 million for a multi-mission satellite, a project that is being viewed by India with suspicion. The country is also planning to establish 3 new space centers in Karachi, Lahore and Islamabad. Ambassador, what do you make of the timing of this attempt that's being made by globally designated terrorist Hafiz Saeed to revive the Khalistani movement, also coming at a time when it's coincided, for example, with the meeting between the two Asian giants leaders, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping? This was a meeting that was being held in Lahore pretty much around the same time. Do you not feel that Pakistan, of course, this is an old template that Pakistan is trying out yet again, but Pakistan feeling rattled by the bonhomie between India and China?
There are 3 actions of China which have caused concern in Pakistan. The first was when in the conference in Beijing on the Shanghai one of the multilateral organizations, China supported a resolution condemning the Lashkar-e-Taiba's chief and the Jaish-e-Mohammed. That shook them. That's the first time China had done that. The second time was in the Financial Action Task Force, when Pakistan internationally was branded as supporting terrorism and could face financial action. China did not support them. So that is the second time. And the third time which has shaken them is an agreement with by the Chinese to cooperate with us on Afghanistan. So I'm not saying that it's going to change the pattern of the Pakistan-China relationship, but I think China is feeling the heat from the rest of the world. In the Financial Action Task Force, they couldn't be alone when every other permanent member of the Security Council was labeling Pakistan a terrorist state. Now our friend in Pakistan, the Pakistani, I appreciate it's an honest viewpoint, but the fact of the matter is, our Punjab has a border with Pakistan, and there is a lot of drug smuggling in which the ISI is directly involved, which we know of and have shared with the Pakistanis. That is to undermine Punjab itself in terms of their youth, in terms of drug smuggling. We don't have a border with Balochistan, so there's no question of us going. Lastly, this gentleman who was with Hafiz Saeed, he's an old Hafiz Saeed contact, and we know for a fact that Hafiz Saeed has had these sort of links with the Chauhans and Dhillons and others of the world, but it does not particularly worry us, because I believe that the bonds in Punjab are so strong that they can try their best. It is not Balochistan, and he hasn't said what is getting started, which is the almost tribal rebellion against the army by the Pashtuns in the tribal areas bordering Afghanistan. Now, they can't accuse us of that, that's bordering Afghanistan. So I think they're in trouble. I don't see any reason why we should bail them out. Unless we see a marked change in behavior.
And also the 26/11 Mumbai terror attack case, the chief prosecutor being removed only because he's not towed the government's line, and this is what reports are saying. This is not something that is concealed any longer.
Let me tell you something, that in the whole 26/11 episode, let's start from the beginning. They denied that Kasab was Pakistani, and we were proved wrong. Then, more important, in trials in America, two people of Pakistan origin, one fellow was Coleman Hadley, the other was Tahawur Rahman.
Right.
They were both sentenced, one to 30 years imprisonment, one to 14 years imprisonment, for active involvement. We have interrogated those people in American jails. That evidence from American courts is available to Pakistan, enough to nail Zakir Rahman Lakwi. So it's not Indian evidence. And yet, what do they do with Zakir Rahman Lakwi? He's said to be in prison. He is allowed conjugal rights with his wife visiting him. He produces a baby. The chief of the ISI, General Shuja Pasha, calls on him. Now, if they want to treat terrorists like that, I'd love to be a terrorist.
We're going to leave it there for the moment. Ambassador Parthasarathy and Ahmad Shaheen, appreciate very much you joining us on the broadcast with all of those perspectives. In less than a month, another American diplomat in Pakistan has been involved in a car accident. A motorcyclist was injured after being hit by a US embassy car in Islamabad. The car was being driven by the embassy's second secretary, Shad Osborne. According to local police officials, Osborne produced his diplomatic card issued by the Foreign Office along with a valid driving license to the police personnel. The car and the diplomat were shifted to a nearby police station shortly after the accident for legal formalities. Since Osborne enjoys diplomatic immunity, he cannot be detained or arrested by the police. The incident also coming just days after a US diplomat killed a motorcyclist and injured another in a rash driving incident in the capital, Islamabad. Moving on, two deadly blasts have rocked the Afghanistan capital, Kabul, this morning. At least 29 people have been killed and 45 others injured in the blast. The blast happened at the Shashtarak area in the central part of Kabul, which has a number of foreign offices. The Islamic State has claimed responsibility for those attacks. Moreover, 8 journalists are among the 29 casualties, including a renowned photographer who had written about the dangers of reporting in the Afghan capital. The journalists were killed after a bomber disguised as a camera person detonated a second bomb at the earlier site of the explosion. The first blast in the morning led to reporters rushing to Shashtarak area of the city where US Embassy and Afghan government buildings are located. The second attack came after the disguised bomber detonated explosives as journalists huddled around the scene. The dastardly attack coming after a spate of attacks in Afghanistan in recent weeks. And also after the willingness expressed by some factions of Taliban expressing to pursue peace talks with the Afghan government. Meanwhile, another suicide car bomb attack took place in Kandahar region of Afghanistan. 6 soldiers have been wounded, 11 civilians killed and 9 others injured. According to Afghanistan's Ministry of Education, 12 madrasa students have been killed as well. It's a study in contrast. While Pakistan exports violence to push its agenda, India has found strength in the religion of peace. Buddhism has proved to be a powerful tool to connect with the neighborhood. Prime Minister Modi made the first moves in this direction when he visited Sri Lanka last year. On the occasion of Buddha Purnima, or the birth anniversary of Lord Buddha today, New Delhi is taking the next steps in Buddhism diplomacy, an idea that finds resonance in East and Southeast Asia. This report telling you more.
The world is celebrating the birth of Gautam Buddha, the founder of Buddhism. To mark this auspicious day, the Indian government has sent most revered relics from Sarnath to Buddhist-majority Sri Lanka for a public display. This is the second time that the Indian government has taken an initiative to exhibit sacred relics of Lord Buddha in Sri Lanka. The first such step was taken back in 2012. The move highlights the shared Buddhist heritage of India and Sri Lanka and the spiritual bond between the two countries. In his monthly address, Prime Minister Modi said that his government is taking measures to develop infrastructure for Buddhist tourism. This will connect Southeast Asia to the important Buddhist sites in the country.
हम बुद्धिस्ट टूरिज्म के लिए इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर विकसित कर रहे हैं जो दक्षिण पूर्व एशिया के महत्वपूर्ण स्थानों को भारत के खास बौद्ध स्थलों के साथ जोड़ता है। मुझे इस बात की भी अत्यंत प्रसन्नता है कि भारत सरकार कई बौद्ध मंदिरों के पुनरुद्धार कार्यों में भागीदार है। इसमें म्यांमार में बागान में सदियों पुराना वैभवशाली आनंदा मंदिर भी सम्मिलित है।
India is home to 7 of the 8 most significant Buddhist sites in the world. Yet, it receives less than 1% of global Buddhist tourism. Prime Minister Modi has been emphasizing on Buddhism as a great link that connects India's Asian neighborhood. Some experts believe that Prime Minister Modi's Buddhist diplomacy is an attempt by India to emerge as a soft power, since the Buddhist faith emphasizes on peaceful coexistence and has a huge presence in Asia. Even though India has a relatively small Buddhist population, it is giving a big boost to Buddhist circuits for a number of reasons. Firstly, for historic reasons, since Buddhism originated in India. Secondly, India has numerous sites of importance for Buddhism such as Bodh Gaya, Sarnath and Nalanda. Another reason is that India has been home to the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan Parliament in exile. Prime Minister Modi has been successfully leveraging these associations with other Buddhist countries, which has an impact on not just cultural diplomacy but foreign policy as well. Bureau Report, WION.
That's it then on this edition of Fine Print. We're taking a very short break, but a special from Karnataka on Battleground Karnataka coming up on the other side. Stay with us.